Go to TAPgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. Right, so a quick look at these inputs and outputs, just as a quick overview. Possessed will send a signal while you're possessing that character, but possessing that object. Other outputs we have is microphone. So this won't work because I'm streaming or something, but if you're just a player possessing it, then it will send a signal from 0 to 100% based on what the microphone is picking up, if the player has their microphone on. It doesn't tell you like the frequency it's picking up or like what they're saying or something. It's purely the volume that it's picking up. Die is an input we looked at earlier. When you actually send a signal into die, then all of the controls stop working. All of the outputs effectively stop working. Because this controller sensor itself considers itself dead, so it's not going to do anything anymore. And while it's in the dead mode, it sends is dead out of the is dead output. Okay, but while it's possessable, you also have these off-screen and off-screen death. With this camera, when you move into the view, it activates. If you want it to always be active, you can use a switch or any wire to go into the camera, or you can use, if it's inside a chip, just move it in there, then it'll always be locked in. So if I make this possessable again, then I can't even see it because it doesn't care where a possessable object is or anything. It's just locked in over here. Even if I like auto-possess it, I'm possessing it and I can run around, but the camera doesn't care. It's just locked in because it's got that wire going into it. But now if we turn on Offscreen Indicator, then it's telling us where we are roughly off screen until we come on screen again. It's like, you're off screen, mate, you might want to get on screen again. And also, if stay on screen is on and we're off screen, then it will start flashing and like counting down a certain time before it automatically respawns us, so that we can like respawn at a nearer checkpoint or something like that. So that's what those settings do. I believe there's some settings in the global settings gadget relating to that. Camera boundary, I believe, relates to this. So if we just have off-screen indicator, then 2 meters is the camera boundary distance. So if we're 2 meters away, then something happens. And if we expand it, I believe it allows it to be so it seems to allow it to be further away based on this camera boundary thing. And then adjust off-screen timeout. So if you set that to 28 seconds, for example, but it will time out if we have the timeout on, stay on screen on, then it will take that amount of time before it will actually kill the controller sensor and the puppet and everything. So that's another way the controller sensor can quote unquote die, is automatically when you're off screen for a long period of time and you've got this setting on where it says you have to stay on screen. So hopefully that'll start flashing. There we go. So that's what that setting does, is say how long it takes for that to happen. By default, those settings are actually on, and probably you don't want them to be on. So that's something to remember to do if you want. Camera transform is where the camera is and the angle and the like rotation and stuff. That's what that will send. It's the same as in a global settings gadget, has a camera transform as well. Hover position is the position the imp is hovering. If this is possessed, then it will tell you the position. If I just do a quick demonstration of what that could be used for, now it will just move to wherever I'm pointing at and it'll make it non-collidable. Right, so now it's moving to where I'm pointing to with the imp. But a weird thing that happens is when you're pointing over here and you like move up quickly, it seems to kind of bounce up because the imp doesn't immediately move like that. If you look closely at the imp, it likes to move on the on like a plane of the parallel to the view of the camera. So the point that it's kind of hovering over also does that. So it kind of takes a moment to actually figure out, oh, I'm actually meant to be deeper into the scene, or I'm meant to be further out into the scene based on what it's hovering over. So let's turn that on again. And that's what this does. It kind of seems to want to stay on the same plane. So it kind of dips beneath the ground when you move towards the camera and jumps up above the ground when you move away from the camera. So a way of stopping that from happening is instead to use a imp tracker like that with a laser scope in it, which effectively does the same thing. It goes from the goes from the camera through the imp tip into the scene and sees where it hits stuff. And we need this setting as well. I've got other tutorials showing how to do this in more detail, but then we can use that position, hit position, instead, and it will give us the same kind of effect, but it won't have that jumping thing. So it'll just move straight along the ground or up and down these platforms and so on, without having that problem. And lastly, using motion controllers. So that will send a signal if you're using motion controllers and not the DualShock or DualSense controller. And that's about it.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/TAPgiles to learn something new every day.